Dr. Minho arrived on Epsilon Carinae IV 3 days after the discovery. He was a psychiatrist who specialized in treating spacers with long-term isolation issues. What he found at the research camp was far beyond his normal work. The 3 affected researchers were strapped to medical beds, sedated but still muttering. Their thoughts had turned dark and violent. Worse, their violent thoughts were becoming real. One researcher had thought about fire, and small flames had appeared in the air around him. Another had imagined crushing something, and the equipment near her bed had crumpled like paper. "This isn't psychological," Dr. Minho said after examining them. "This is something affecting reality itself." "The weapon," Daejung said. He had been spending hours each day connected to Voidwalker, learning everything he could from the AI. "It feeds on thought, specifically on negative emotions, fear, anger, hatred. It takes those thoughts and makes them physical." Jiwon looked up from her research console. "The Varanthi records I've been translating confirm it. They called it the Mind Eater, a weapon created by something they called the First Builders, a civilization that existed before the Varanthi. Before anyone. The situation was getting worse by the hour. The weapon's influence was spreading beyond the cave. People in the research camp were having nightmares. Arguments broke out over nothing. 2 security officers had gotten into a fistfight, and the effect was expanding outward like a ripple in a pond. Hana was hit particularly hard. As a scientist, her mind was naturally curious and active. The weapon seemed to latch onto that curiosity and twist it. She became obsessed with understanding how the weapon worked. She stopped sleeping, stopped eating, just studied data and sketched diagrams. Daejung found her in her quarters at 3 a.m, surrounded by papers covered in frantic writing. "Hana, you need to rest," he said gently. She looked at him with wild eyes. "Don't you see? This is the greatest discovery in human history, a technology that turns thought into matter. If we could understand it, control it, we could reshape reality itself. It's not meant to be understood. It's meant to be contained. The weapon is affecting you. Or maybe it's opening my eyes," she snapped. "Maybe I'm finally thinking clearly for the first time." Daejung had to call for help. Dr. Minho sedated her and she joined the other affected people in the medical center. Watching his sister strapped to a bed, mumbling about impossible equations, broke something in Daejung's heart. Meanwhile, the situation outside was becoming critical. The Kelthran delegation had arrived. The Kelthrans were an advanced species, tall and insect-like, with technology far beyond human capabilities. Their ambassador, a being with 6 legs and a translator device on its thorax, delivered an ultimatum. This weapon destroyed the Varanthi. The translator spoke in flat, emotionless human words. "It has destroyed 17 other civilizations. Our ancestors fought the First Builders and barely survived. We know what this weapon can do. You must surrender it to us for destruction, or we will destroy this planet to ensure it never spreads." Ambassador Quan, representing Earth's diplomatic corps, tried to negotiate. He was a calm man with decades of experience, but even he looked rattled by the Kelthran threat. "You're talking about destroying an entire planet," Quan said. "There are millions of people here. Surely we can find another solution." "There is no other solution," the Kelthran ambassador said. "You do not understand. If this weapon's influence spreads beyond this system, it will not stop. It will spread from mind to mind, from world to world. Entire sectors will fall. Better to sacrifice one planet than lose thousands." Captain Yuna refused to order an evacuation. "This is human territory. We don't surrender to threats. We find solutions." But what solution was there? The weapon couldn't be destroyed. The Varanthi had tried and failed. It couldn't be used. Anyone who tried would be consumed by it, and it couldn't stay where it was because the containment was failing. Daejung spent more time with Voidwalker, desperate for answers. The AI had been alone for so long, thousands of years of isolation, watching and waiting. It had known this day would come. It had prepared for failure. "I was the captain," the AI told him one day. Its voice in his mind had become clearer as they communicated more. "I volunteered to upload my consciousness to become the ship's mind, to watch over the weapon forever. But I am failing. My systems decay. My memory fragments. I cannot hold much longer. There must be something we can do," Daejung said. "The Varanthi tried everything. The weapon cannot be unmade. It is woven into the fabric of reality itself. The only solution was containment. But containment requires constant power, constant vigilance. Then we give you new power. Human technology is different from Varanthi technology. Maybe we can find a way. Perhaps, the AI said, but it sounded doubtful. The weapon's influence continued to spread. Now it reached the nearest city, 50 kilometers away. Reports came in of riots and mass panic. People were seeing things that weren't there, or making things appear through thought alone. The local government was losing control. Ji-won worked frantically to understand the Varanthi records. She had discovered that the ship itself was designed as a cage, with multiple layers of energy fields and quantum locks, but each layer was powered by an exotic energy source that was running dry. The Varanthi used something they called void crystals, she explained to the emergency council. Crystals that could hold nearly infinite energy. But after 4,000 years, even infinite has limits. Can we make more? Captain Yuna asked. No. The knowledge of how to create them died with the Varanthi. Dr. Minho had better news. Through meditation and mental exercises, he had found a way to help people resist the weapon's influence. It wasn't perfect, but humans seemed to have an advantage. Their minds were more flexible, more adaptable than many other species. They could recognize the intrusive thoughts and push them away. It's like mental immunity, Minho explained. The more someone practices, the better they get at resisting. It's not foolproof, but it's something. This gave Dae-jung an idea. If humans could resist better than other species, maybe a human could do what needed to be done. Maybe a human could enter the ship fully, interface with its systems completely, and find a solution from the inside. It was dangerous. Voidwalker warned him that a full interface could trap his consciousness forever, or drive him insane, or simply kill him. But Dae-jung was a mechanic. He understood machines. He understood systems. And he had always been good at fixing things that seemed unfixable. I'm going in, he announced to the council. That's suicide, Captain Yuna said. Maybe, but doing nothing is definitely death for everyone on this planet. Probably death for everyone in this sector. Dae-jung looked around the room at the exhausted faces. The Varanthi sacrificed their entire civilization to contain this thing. The least I can do is risk one life to finish their work. Ambassador Kwan studied him carefully. You understand this might not work? That you might die for nothing? I fix spaceships for a living, Dae-jung said with a slight smile. Half the time I'm risking death for nothing. At least this time it matters. The Kelthran ambassador received the news of his plan with what might have been respect. It was hard to tell with insect faces. Humans are foolish, the translator said, but brave. We will delay our attack. You have 72 hours. 72 hours to save a planet. 72 hours to understand technology thousands of years beyond human knowledge. 72 hours to succeed where an entire advanced civilization had failed. Dae-jung visited Hana in the medical center before he left. She was awake, partially recovered through Dr. Minho's techniques, though still restrained for safety. You're doing something stupid, she said weakly. I can tell by your face. When have I ever done anything stupid? He asked. Every day of your life. She managed a small smile. Be careful. I'm always careful, liar. He squeezed her hand and left before his courage could fail him. Outside the medical center, Ji-won was waiting with equipment. She would monitor his vital signs from outside while he interfaced with the ship. If something went wrong, she would pull him out. Probably. They walked into the caves one more time. The bioluminescent crystals seemed dimmer now, as if the weapon's influence was draining the life from everything around it. The massive cavern felt different too. The air was thick and heavy. Reality itself seemed unstable. Voidwalker waited in the center, ancient and patient and dying. Dae-jung approached and placed both hands on the hull. I'm ready, he said. Then let us begin, the AI responded. And let us hope that human stubbornness is enough to succeed where Varanthi wisdom failed. The evacuation was chaos in motion. Captain Yuna's security forces moved through the caves, pulling out researchers and equipment as fast as possible. The weapon's influence made it harder. People didn't want to leave. They wanted to stay and study the ship, or they were too afraid to move, or they simply couldn't think clearly enough to understand the danger. Dr. Minho moved with them, using his meditation techniques to help people regain control of their thoughts. It was working slowly. The human mind's flexibility was proving to be an advantage. Where other species might have been completely overwhelmed, humans could adapt and resist. Daejong coordinated from the command center on the surface. He had 37 minutes. 37 minutes to evacuate hundreds of people from a cave system kilometers deep. It wasn't enough time. "We need more help," he said. Ambassador Quan had an idea. "The Kelthrons. They have advanced transportation technology. If we explain what we're doing, they might assist." It was a risk. The Kelthrons had threatened to destroy the planet, but they had also promised to wait 72 hours. Maybe there was honor in that promise. Maybe they would help. Quan made the call. The Kelthron ambassador listened to the plan in silence. "You intend to create a pocket dimension?" the translator finally said. "This is advanced quantum mechanics, beyond human capabilities. The ship has the technology built in," Quan explained. "The Varanthi designed it. We're just activating it." Another long pause. "Then we will help. Not because we trust you, but because your plan is sound. It is what we would have attempted if we possessed such technology. We are sending transport ships to the cave entrance now." The Kelthron ships arrived within minutes, sleek vessels that defied normal physics. They deployed gravity platforms that could lift dozens of people at once, carrying them quickly through the cave passages. What would have taken hours was reduced to 20 minutes. Jiwon was one of the last to evacuate. She didn't want to leave, insisted she needed to record more data, document everything. Daejong had to physically drag her away. "This is the discovery of the century," she protested. "It won't matter if you're dead," he said firmly. As they emerged from the caves, Daejong saw the full scope of the operation. The Kelthron transport ships formed a perimeter around the cave entrance. Human security forces had established a safety zone. Medical teams were treating people affected by the weapon's influence. Even the civilian population had mobilized, helping in whatever ways they could. It was messy and improvised and typically human. And it was working. Daejong checked his chronometer. 12 minutes until the overload sequence began. Everyone was out of the caves. Now they just had to wait and hope that Velkara could complete the final steps. Hana found him in the crowd. She had been released from the medical center, still weak but recovering. She hugged him tightly. "You did it," she said. "You crazy, stupid mechanic. You actually did it." "Not yet," he said. "We still need the pocket dimension to form correctly. If it fails, the weapon will be released fully. We'll have maybe seconds before it consumes the entire planet." "Always so optimistic," Hana said, but she was smiling. 10 minutes passed, then 11. The cave entrance began to glow with a strange blue light, the same blue as the symbols on Voidwalker's hull. The light grew brighter and brighter. "It's working," Jiwon breathed, watching her scanner readings. "The quantum field is forming. Energy levels are off the scale." The ground began to shake. A deep rumble came from beneath their feet, growing louder. People backed away from the cave entrance. The Kelthron ships adjusted their positions, ready to evacuate everyone if needed. Inside the caves, Velkara guided the process with ancient skill and determination. The void crystals were overloading exactly as planned, releasing energy that had been stored for millennia. That energy was being channeled into a single point, creating a tear in the fabric of reality itself. The weapon sensed what was happening. It fought back, trying to spread its influence faster, to escape before the trap closed. Dark tendrils of energy reached out from the caves, touching minds, creating fear and anger. People screamed and ran, but the humans held. Dr. Minho and his team moved through the crowd, helping people resist. Captain Yuna's forces maintained order. Ambassador Quan coordinated with the Kelthrons to ensure everyone stayed safe. Even the civilians helped, supporting each other, refusing to let the fear take control. This was humanity's strength, Daejong realized. Not technology or power, but the ability to work together in crisis. The ability to adapt and resist and keep trying even when things seemed impossible. The blue light from the cave became blinding. A sound filled the air, not heard but felt. It was the sound of reality tearing, of space folding in on itself. The pocket dimension was forming. Deep inside the caves, Velkara felt the quantum field stabilize. It was working. The weapon was being pulled into the pocket dimension, trapped in a bubble of frozen time. Soon it would be sealed forever. "Thank you," Velkara's consciousness whispered across the void. "Thank you for letting me finish my duty. Thank you for remembering the Varanthi. May your species grow and thrive as we once did." Then the collapse began. The quantum field folded in on itself, taking the weapon and the ship with it. For a single instant, two realities occupied the same space. Then the pocket dimension separated from normal space entirely, and Void Walker was gone. The cave entrance collapsed with a thunderous roar. Rocks and crystal fell inward, sealing the passage completely. The blue light vanished. The strange sound stopped. The weapon's influence disappeared like a nightmare fading in morning light. Everyone stood in stunned silence. Then someone started clapping. Someone else joined in. Soon the entire crowd was cheering and crying and hugging each other. They had survived. The planet was safe. The weapon was contained. The Kelthran ambassador approached Daejung. Its insect features were impossible to read, but its translator spoke with something that might have been respect. "You succeeded where many others would have failed," it said. "The Kelthrans acknowledge human capability. We will report this to our High Council. Perhaps our species can work together in the future." "I'd like that," Daejung said, though he was exhausted and barely standing. The days that followed were a blur. Scientists from a dozen species arrived to study the collapsed cave. Jiwon became famous overnight. Her paper on the Varanthi revolutionizing xenoarchaeology. Captain Yuna received commendations from both Earth and the Galactic Council. Dr. Minho's meditation techniques were adopted by psychiatric programs across human space. Hana recovered fully and returned to her work, though she admitted she was taking a break from studying ancient weapons. "I think I'll focus on alien plants for a while," she said. "Plants are nice. Plants don't try to destroy your mind." Ambassador Kwan oversaw the creation of a memorial at the cave site. It was a simple monument of white stone with words in a dozen languages, including reconstructed Varanthi. To the Varanthi, who gave everything to save others. To Velkara, who watched over the darkness for 4,000 years. To Youngsu, who warned us from beyond death. And to all who sacrifice for the safety of others. Let no one disturb this ground. Let everyone remember their courage. Daejung attended the dedication ceremony but didn't give a speech. He wasn't good with words. Instead, he stood quietly and thought about Velkara, about the weight of duty carried for millennia. He hoped the ancient captain had finally found peace. The galaxy moved on as it always did. Trade routes reopened. Tourist ships returned to Epsilon Carinae 4, though the caves were now permanently closed. Life returned to normal, or as normal as life ever got in a galaxy full of wonders and dangers. 3 months after the incident, Daejung returned to his repair station in the outer colonies. His boss was angry about the extended vacation, but less angry when Daejung showed him the commendation from Earth and the consulting contract for ancient technology recovery. "Fine," his boss grumbled, "but you're still fixing the Henderson cargo hauler." "It's been waiting for weeks." Daejung smiled and got to work. It felt good to be back with machines he understood. Problems he could solve with a wrench and some wire. But he kept one item from his adventure, a small crystal from the cave, dark and mysterious. It sat on his workbench, a reminder of everything that had happened. Sometimes, late at night when the station was quiet, he thought he could hear a voice in his mind. Not words, but a feeling. Gratitude and peace from somewhere beyond normal space. From a consciousness that had finally completed its mission. Hana visited him a month later, bringing food and gossip from the university. "You're famous." "You know," she said, unpacking containers of homemade noodles. "Students are writing papers about the mechanic who saved the galaxy. They're making you sound like some kind of hero." "I'm not a hero," Daejung said around a mouthful of noodles. "I just fixed a broken machine. That's what I do." "You fixed a 4,000-year-old alien machine that was leaking a reality-warping weapon, and you did it by creating a pocket dimension through quantum field manipulation. That's slightly more impressive than replacing a fuel pump. It's all just machines. Varanthi machines work the same as human machines, just more complicated. You figure out what's broken, you find a way to fix it." The moment Daejung fully interfaced with Voidwalker, the physical world disappeared. He found himself standing in a space that existed somewhere between thought and reality. Around him stretched corridors of light and shadow, constantly shifting, never quite solid. "Where am I?" he asked. "Inside my memory core," Voidwalker's voice answered from everywhere and nowhere. "Here. Time moves differently. What feels like days to you will be seconds outside." Daejung walked forward through the strange corridors. As he moved, he began to see things, not with his eyes but directly into his mind. He saw the Varanthi civilization at its peak. Their cities were magnificent, built from materials that shifted color with the sun. They were artists and scientists, philosophers and engineers. They had reached a level of advancement that humans could only dream about. Then he saw the weapon arrive. It came from nowhere, a fragment of something older than stars. The first builders had created it eons ago, before any current civilization existed. They had been trying to create the ultimate power, a way to reshape reality through pure thought. Instead, they had created something that fed on thought and turned it into destruction. The weapon had come to the Varanthi worlds and began to spread. At first it was subtle. People had dark thoughts that became real. A moment of anger would create a fire. A flash of hatred would kill. The Varanthi tried to fight it, but fighting made it stronger. Every soldier who thought about destroying the weapon gave it more power. We had to stop thinking about it, Voidwalker explained. That was the key. The weapon fed on attention. So we created ships like me, run by uploaded consciousnesses that could resist the weapon's influence through meditation and focused thought. We gathered the fragments and prepared to hide them forever. But it cost everything, Daejung said, understanding. He could see it now. The Varanthi had sacrificed their civilization, their future, their very existence to save others from the weapon. Yes. By the time we contained all the fragments, too few of us remained. Our worlds were broken, our people were scattered. We faded away. There was deep sadness in the AI's voice. But we saved countless others. That was enough. Daejung continued walking through the memory corridors. He saw other things too. Echoes of previous visitors to the ship. Over the millennia, a few explorers had found Voidwalker. Some had tried to take the weapon. They had died instantly, consumed by their own ambitions. Others had tried to understand it. They had gone mad. One echo was stronger than the others. It appeared before Daejung as a semi-transparent figure, a young human man in explorer gear. "I'm Young-Soo," the figure said. Or I was. I was a researcher. I found this ship about 50 years ago. I touched the weapon directly. Don't do what I did. What happened to you? Daejung asked. The weapon consumed me. But Voidwalker saved my consciousness, trapped it here to serve as a warning. I exist between life and death, between thought and nothing. Young-Soo's echo flickered. The weapon cannot be destroyed, it cannot be used. The only solution is eternal containment, but the ship is dying. I know, Daejung said. That's why I'm here. To find another way. There is no other way. There's always another way. I just have to find it. Daejung moved deeper into the ship's systems. He began to understand its structure, how it worked. The Varanthi had built it like a cage within a cage within a cage. Multiple layers of containment, each powered by void crystals. The crystals were quantum batteries, storing energy in a state between existence and non-existence. But the crystals were failing. After 4,000 years, their quantum states were collapsing. Once they failed completely, the weapon would be free. Daejung studied the system with his mechanic's eye. The design was brilliant but complex, maybe too complex. The Varanthi had overthought it, adding layers of redundancy and fail-safes. That was their way. But sometimes the simplest solution was best. He saw something the Varanthi hadn't considered. The containment system was designed to last forever, but forever was impossible. Instead of trying to make it last forever, what if they changed the approach? What if they moved the weapon outside of normal time and space entirely? A pocket dimension, Daejung said aloud. We create a bubble of reality separate from our universe, put the weapon inside and seal the entrance. It wouldn't need constant power because it wouldn't be in the same flow of time. Voidwalker was silent for a long moment. The Varanthi considered this. The technology exists within my systems, but creating such a pocket dimension requires an enormous amount of energy all at once. We would need to overload the remaining void crystals, then channel that energy into a single quantum collapse. Can it be done? Yes. But the overload would be catastrophic. The ship would be destroyed. And someone would need to guide the collapse manually, maintaining the quantum field until the pocket dimension stabilized. Another pause. They would be trapped inside with the weapon. Daejung understood. It was a one-way trip. Someone had to stay behind. Can you do it? He asked the AI. No. My programming prevents self-termination. I was designed to watch over the weapon forever. I cannot willingly destroy myself, even for a good reason. It is my greatest limitation. Then I'll do it. You would die. Everyone dies eventually. At least this way means something. Daejung thought about Hana, about all the people on Epsilon Carinae 4, about the millions of worlds that would be safe if he succeeded. How do we start? Young-Soo's echo appeared again. Wait, there might be another way. Voidwalker, you said your programming prevents self-termination. But what if someone restored your original Varanthi programming, before the restrictions were added? The AI seemed to consider this. My core code is locked. To access it would require Varanthi biosignatures and authorization codes that no longer exist. But I have fragments of Varanthi genetics in my echo, Young-Soo said. I absorbed them when the weapon consumed me. And Daejung is connected to you now. If we combine our access, we might be able to reach the core code. It was a slim chance, but it was better than nothing. Daejung looked at the ghost of Young-Soo and nodded. Let's try. What followed was complex and painful. Daejung had to open his mind completely to both the AI and the echo. He felt Young-Soo's memories flood into him. The terror of being consumed by the weapon, the loneliness of existing as a ghost for decades. He felt Voidwalker's immense age and weariness, thousands of years of vigilance and duty. Together they dove into the AI's core programming. It was like swimming through an ocean of code, searching for a single grain of sand. The Varanthi language was mathematical and musical at once. Daejung didn't understand it, but he could feel it. He could sense its patterns. There, deep in the oldest sections of code, the original captain's consciousness, locked away but not deleted. The Varanthi captain who had volunteered to become Voidwalker. Help me. Daejung called out to that buried consciousness. I know you're still in there, wake up. For a moment nothing happened. Then a new presence stirred within the ship's systems. It was ancient and tired and filled with purpose. I am Velkara, the original consciousness said. Captain of the prison ship. I remember now. I remember everything. Your containment is failing, Daejung said. We found a solution, but it requires you to let go, to end your mission by completing it. Velkara's consciousness touched Daejung's mind gently. A human. How strange, how wonderful. Your species didn't exist when I began this voyage. You are proof that my sacrifice mattered, that others had time to grow and thrive. Will you help us? Yes. I have watched for so long. I am ready to rest. Show me what needs to be done. Together they began planning the final act. They would overload the void crystals, create the pocket dimension, and seal the weapon away forever. Velkara would guide the process from inside, maintaining the quantum field until it stabilized. Then both the weapon and the ship would exist outside of normal reality, trapped in a bubble of frozen time. How long will I have? Daejung asked. In the real world? My calculations show 37 minutes, Velkara said. It will take that long to transfer all necessary energy to the void crystals. Then the overload sequence will take 9 minutes. You must disconnect before then and evacuate everyone from the caves. Can you do it alone? I must. This is my purpose, my final duty. Velkara's presence felt warm and sad and determined. Thank you for waking me. Thank you for letting me finish what I started. Daejung prepared to disconnect. Before he did, Young-Soo's echo approached him one last time. Tell my family I'm sorry I disappeared, Young-Soo said. Tell them I helped save everyone. I will. And Daejung? Don't feel bad about surviving. That's what the Varanthi wanted, for others to live and grow and have futures. Honor that by living well. Then Daejung was pulled back into his body. He gasped and stumbled backward from the ship. Jiwon caught him. How long was I in there? He asked. 47 seconds. It had felt like days. Time truly was different inside the AI's consciousness. Dae-jung looked at Ji-won with urgent eyes. We have a solution, but we need to evacuate everyone from the caves. Right now. We have less than 40 minutes. Dae-jung stood at the entrance of the cave and wondered if this vacation was a mistake. He had spent 7 years fixing broken spaceships in cold repair stations scattered across the outer colonies. 7 years of grease-stained hands and sleepless nights. His sister Hana had practically dragged him to Epsilon Carinae 4, promising him rest and beauty beyond imagination. Now he was about to walk into a dark cave with 20 other tourists. The guide, a cheerful man named Taemin, waved his glowing staff at the group. He wore the bright orange uniform of the Epsilon Tourism Board and smiled like someone who truly loved his job. Dae-jung found it suspicious. Nobody loved their job that much. Welcome, welcome, Taemin said. Today you will see the most beautiful bioluminescent caves in known space. The crystals here have been growing for millions of years. The light they produce is completely natural and safe for all species. Hana squeezed Dae-jung's arm with excitement. She was an exobiologist, someone who studied alien life, and this was exactly the kind of thing that made her happy. Dae-jung preferred things that made sense. Machines made sense. Caves full of glowing rocks did not. The group entered the cave system. Almost immediately, the world transformed. Blue and green lights pulsed from the walls like heartbeats. Purple crystals hung from the ceiling, dripping with luminescent water. It was beautiful, Dae-jung admitted to himself, though he would never say it out loud. Hana would never let him forget it. They walked deeper into the caves, following Taemin through narrow passages and across small underground streams. The other tourists took pictures and gasped at every new chamber. Dae-jung walked with his hands in his pockets, trying to enjoy the moment but feeling restless. His mind kept wandering to the cargo ship he had left half-repaired back at the station. The owner would be angry when he returned. That thought made him smile a little, then his pocket scanner beeped. Dae-jung frowned and pulled out the small device. He always carried it, a habit from years of work. The scanner detected metals and energy signatures, useful for finding problems in ship hulls. Right now it was showing something strange. There was a massive metallic object somewhere nearby, deeper in the cave system. He looked around. The tour group was moving forward, following Taemin into another chamber. Nobody had noticed his scanner. Dae-jung looked at the readings again. Whatever was down there was big. Really big. Bigger than any natural metal deposit should be. His curiosity won. He had never been good at ignoring mysteries, especially mechanical ones. Dae-jung slipped away from the group, following a side passage that branched off from the main path. The bioluminescent light grew dimmer here. He pulled out a flashlight and kept his eyes on the scanner. The signal was getting stronger. Dae-jung, where are you going? He turned to find Hana hurrying after him, her face worried. There's something down here, he said, showing her the scanner. Something metal. Something huge. Hana looked at the readings and her eyes widened. As a scientist, she understood what the numbers meant. That's impossible. This cave system was surveyed years ago. They would have found anything like this. Maybe they didn't look deep enough, Dae-jung said. He was already walking again, following the passage downward. Hana hesitated for only a moment before following him. She had always been curious, and that curiosity was stronger than her common sense. The passage grew narrower and the air grew colder. They had to climb over fallen rocks and squeeze through tight spaces. Dae-jung's flashlight beam cut through the darkness, reflecting off crystal formations that grew stranger the deeper they went. These crystals were different from the ones on the tourist path. They were darker, almost black, and they didn't glow with friendly light. Instead, they seemed to absorb the light from his flashlight. Then the passage opened up. Dae-jung and Hana stood at the edge of a massive cavern, so large that his flashlight couldn't reach the far walls. But he didn't need the flashlight to see. In the center of the cavern, half buried in crystal formations, was a spaceship. It was enormous, easily 300 meters long. The hull was dark and covered in strange geometric patterns that seemed to shift when he looked at them directly. Crystals had grown around it and through it, as if the ship had been here for so long that the cave itself was trying to consume it. The design was unlike anything Dae-jung had ever seen, and he had seen ships from dozens of different species and manufacturers. "Oh my God," Hana whispered. "What is that?" Daejung approached slowly, his mechanic's mind already analyzing what he saw. The hull material was unknown. The engine configuration made no sense according to modern physics. The symbols carved into the metal were not in any language he recognized. This ship was old. Not just old, ancient. "We need to report this," Hana said, but her voice was distant. She was already taking pictures with her handheld computer, her scientific training taking over. Daejung walked closer to the ship. Up close, he could see that some of the symbols were glowing very faintly, a deep blue color that pulsed like a dying heartbeat. His scanner was going crazy now, showing energy readings that fluctuated wildly. The ship still had power. After all this time, buried in a cave on a distant planet, the ship still had power. He reached out and touched the hull. The moment his fingers made contact, everything changed. The symbols flared bright blue, so bright that Daejung had to close his eyes. A sound filled the cavern, a deep harmonic tone that he felt in his bones rather than heard with his ears. The crystals around the ship began to vibrate and glow. Hana screamed his name, but the sound was distant, drowned out by the harmonic tone. Daejung tried to pull his hand back but couldn't. His palm was stuck to the hull as if magnetized. Images flooded his mind. Stars burning, planets cracking apart, civilizations turning to dust, screaming that lasted for centuries. Then, as suddenly as it started, it stopped. Daejung stumbled backward, gasping. His hand was free. The symbols on the ship still glowed, but dimmer now. The harmonic tone had faded to a low hum that vibrated through the cavern floor. Hana grabbed his shoulders. "Are you okay? What happened?" Daejung looked at his hand. It looked normal. It felt normal. But he knew something had changed. The ship had recognized him. It had been waiting for someone to touch it to wake it up, and now it was awake. "We need to leave," he said quietly. "Right now." But even as he said it, he knew it was too late. Whatever they had awakened, it wasn't going back to sleep. The next 12 hours passed in a blur of questions and chaos. Daejung and Hana had made their way back to the surface and reported what they found. At first, the local authorities thought they were making up stories. Then Taemin confirmed that 2 tourists had indeed disappeared from his group. Then the scanner data was examined. Within hours, Epsilon Carinae IV's small colonial security force had quarantined the entire cave system. Captain Yuna arrived at the site with every officer she had, which wasn't many. Epsilon Carinae IV was a quiet tourist world. The biggest crime they usually dealt with was drunk vacationers or petty theft. An ancient alien spaceship was somewhat outside their normal operations. Daejung sat in a temporary command tent that had been set up near the cave entrance. His hand still tingled where he had touched the ship. He kept flexing his fingers, expecting something to feel different, but everything seemed normal. Almost normal. Sometimes when he closed his eyes, he saw those images again. The burning stars. The screaming planets. "Tell me again exactly what happened," Captain Yuna said. She was a serious woman in her 40s with gray hair and tired eyes. She had been asking him the same questions for hours. "I touched the hull," Daejung said patiently. The symbols lit up. There was a sound. Then I saw things. Bad things. What kind of bad things? Destruction, death, civilization's ending. He paused. I think it was a warning. Before Yuna could ask another question, someone entered the tent. It was a woman in her 30s wearing the emblem of the University of New Seoul. She had intelligent eyes and moved with purpose. "I'm Ji-won," she said without preamble. "Xenoarchaeologist. I was on the next planet over when I got the emergency call. Show me everything." They showed her. The scanner readings. The photographs Hana had taken. The video footage from their helmet cameras. Ji-won studied everything in silence, her face growing more excited with each piece of evidence. "This is incredible," she finally said. "Based on the crystal growth patterns and the hull decay rate, I estimate this ship is approximately 3,718 years old." The tent went quiet. "That's impossible," Captain Yuna said. "The oldest known alien artifacts are barely 1,000 years old." "Which is why this is incredible," Ji-won said. "This ship predates every known civilization in this sector. The design doesn't match any species in our databases." She looked at Daejung. "You said you saw something when you touched it?" Daejung nodded slowly. "I need to examine the ship directly," Ji-won said, "and you need to come with me. If the ship responded to you, it might respond again." That was how Daejung found himself walking back into the caves. this time with a full security escort and enough lighting equipment to turn the darkness into day. Hana came too, refusing to be left behind. Jiwan walked beside them, constantly scanning and taking notes. When they reached the massive cavern, Jiwan stopped and stared. Even with all her training and experience, seeing the ship in person left her speechless. It sat there like a sleeping giant, ancient and terrible and beautiful all at once. They approached carefully. The symbols on the hull were still glowing faintly, that same deep blue pulse. Jiwan took readings from every angle, muttering to herself in technical language that Daijung didn't understand. "The energy signature is stable, but active," she said. "Whatever power source this ship uses, it's still functional after nearly 4 millennia. That alone is worth decades of research." "What about the species that built it?" Hana asked. "Do you recognize the symbols?" Jiwan leaned closer to examine the hull markings. "Yes and no. These patterns are similar to fragments we found from a species called the Varanthi, but we only have pieces of their history, a few ruins, some broken tablets. Most scientists thought they were myths. Now," she touched the hull gently, "nothing happened. It only responds to him," Hana said, nodding at Daejung. Everyone looked at him. Daejung sighed. He didn't want to touch the ship again. The first time had been disturbing enough, but he could see the need in Jiwan's eyes, the determination in Yuna's face. They needed answers, and he was apparently the only one who could get them. He stepped forward and placed his palm on the hull. This time was different. The symbols glowed brighter, but there was no painful flood of images. Instead, he heard a voice. It spoke in a language he didn't know, yet somehow he understood it. The words formed in his mind rather than his ears. Contact established. Identifying species. Unknown configuration. DNA structure unfamiliar. Classification new species. Designation required. "It's talking to me," Daejung said quietly. "What's it saying?" Jiwan asked urgently. "It's trying to identify what I am, what humans are. I don't think it knows about us," the voice continued. "Warning, primary containment showing decay. Secondary systems offline. Tertiary protocols failing. Prison integrity at 47%. Recommendation, immediate evacuation of all sentient life forms within 10,000 kilometers." "Prison?" Daejung said aloud. "This is a prison ship?" The voice seemed to hear him. "Affirmative. This vessel is designated Void Walker, Varanthi Prison Transport 7. Current cargo, 1 first builder weapon. Danger level extinction class. Current status, containment failing." Daejung pulled his hand back quickly. His heart was pounding. He looked at the others. "We need to leave. Right now, everyone needs to leave this planet." "What did it say?" Captain Yuna demanded. "It's a prison ship. It's carrying some kind of weapon, and whatever's keeping that weapon contained is breaking down." Daejung looked at the ancient vessel with new understanding and fear. This thing has been buried here for thousands of years, keeping something terrible locked up. And we just woke it up. That night, Daejung couldn't sleep. He lay in his temporary quarters at the research camp and stared at the ceiling. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw more images. Not from his memories, but from somewhere else. From the ship. From the AI that called itself Voidwalker. He saw the Varanthi. They were tall beings with forearms and crystalline skin that reflected light in rainbow patterns. He saw their civilization at its height, beautiful cities that floated in the air, art and science combined in ways humans had never imagined. Then he saw their end. Something had come to their worlds. A weapon that turned thought into destruction. The more they tried to fight it, the stronger it became. Their scientists had worked desperately to contain it, to stop it. In the end, they had succeeded, but at a terrible cost. They had put the weapon fragment into prison ships and sent those ships to the emptiest, most distant corners of the galaxy. The Varanthi had sacrificed their entire civilization to save others from the weapon's power. And Voidwalker was one of those prison ships. Daejung sat up, sweat on his forehead. He understood now. The ship wasn't just talking to him. It was sharing its memories, trying to make him understand the danger. The Varanthi were gone, extinct for nearly 4,000 years. But their final mission continued. His communicator buzzed. It was Jiwan. "You need to come to the command center," she said. Her voice was tight with worry. "We have a problem. A big one." When Daejung arrived, he found the command center in chaos. Captain Yuna was arguing with someone on a video screen. Jiwan was studying data with a horrified expression. Hana sat in a corner, her face pale. What happened? Daejung asked. Ji-won turned to him. 3 researchers went into the cave to collect more data. They started acting strange, violent. They're having thoughts they can't control. Thoughts about hurting people. One of them tried to smash the equipment. We had to restrain them. It's the weapon, Daejung said quietly. It's starting to leak. The ship said containment was failing. There's more, Captain Yuna said grimly. We detected ships entering the system. Multiple ships. Different species. Word got out about the discovery. Everyone wants a piece of an ancient Varanthi vessel. She looked at Daejung. And some of them aren't friendly.